Five Nights at Freddy's is a well-known horror franchise that took the internet by storm in mid-2014. The series quickly became popular, gaining thousands of fans. With a series this popular, many fan games were created that were inspired by FNaF. Fan games such as The Joy of Creation, Five Nights at Candy's, and Winner F. Flumpties are well-known FNaF fan games that are still widely remembered and talked about in modern times. However, there's one FNaF fan game that seems to have been forgotten over the years, and it's called Five Nights to Remember. Five Nights to Remember is a FNaF fan game that was released on April 20th, 2015 by Subwoofer X3 on GameJolt. This fan game was unique as it explored the concept of taking place in Fredbear's family diner, something that not many fan games at the time were doing. The game featured graphics that were pretty decent for the time, and it got the attention of YouTubers Fusion Z Gamer and Dako, both of whom made a few videos on the game. Now that we know what the game is, let's get into the gameplay and how it works. Gameplay for Five Nights to Remember is similar to the original FNaF games. You have a relatively big office with a vent opening to your left and a doorway to your right, both of which can allow the animatronics to enter your office. However, you have a flashlight that you can shine into either one of these openings. You have a few tools to protect yourself from the animatronics, the first one being security cameras, something that most FNaF games have. You also have a bright red switch over to your right, which when clicked will automatically send Fredbear and Spring Bonnie back to the show stage. Speaking of animatronics, let's get into the characters and how they work. Fredbear will move through the west side of the restaurant and enter your office through the vent opening on your left. Fredbear is pretty slow and doesn't pose much of a threat even in the earlier nights. However, the same can't be said about Spring Bonnie. Spring Bonnie will move through the east side of the restaurant and will enter your office through the doorway on your right. Spring Bonnie moves significantly faster than Fredbear and poses a real threat even in the earlier nights. Him, yes, that's his actual name, acts like the puppet from FNaF 2. He will stay in Camp 7, which is a television room, and the player must keep an audio track playing to keep him at bay. If the player doesn't play the audio track, a resource meter will begin to drain, and once it drains completely, you're pretty much screwed as him will jump scare you, causing an instant game over. However, from night 3 and onwards, things will change. For starters, Spring Bonnie and Fredbear will no longer be active, and are instead replaced by the original Freddy Fazbear characters, each having different mechanics. Freddy will randomly appear in your doorway on the right, and you must flip your cameras up to make him go away, otherwise he'll temporarily blind the player. Bonnie will randomly appear when viewing the cameras. If the player doesn't close the cameras, they will be taken back to the main menu, technically counting as a game over, although he never actually jump scares the player. Chica will also randomly appear as players look through the cameras, and they must switch cameras or put the monitor down. Failing to do so will result in Chica temporarily disabling the cameras for about 6 seconds. Foxy will randomly appear in the office, and the player must flick the red switch on their right and pull up the monitor to make him go away. If players fail to do this, they will be jump scared by Foxy, resulting in a game over. It's worth noting that the wiki considers these animatronics as hallucinations, making Foxy the only hallucination that can actually kill the player. There's also shadow versions of Fredbear and Spring Bonnie that appear exclusively in Night 5. They work the same as regular Fredbear and Spring Bonnie, with the only difference being that the red switch will not make them go away, and you must use your flashlight instead to make them go away. So we know what the game is and how it works, but what about the story? Let's go ahead and talk about that. So I'm gonna be honest, I have no idea what the story is for this game. I looked at the GameJolt page, but all I could find was just teaser images that were pretty vague. And the only other thing we have to go off of when it comes to the story is the phone calls and the cutscenes at the end of each night. So I'm gonna talk about the phone calls first, but real quick, I could not access the audio files for this game, so I can't put the actual phone call audio into this video, so I'm just gonna summarize each of the phone calls. Night 1's phone call is pretty basic and doesn't reveal much of the lore, and mostly explains the game's basic mechanics. Night 2's phone call is shorter, as Phone Guy simply reiterates the basic game mechanics. However, we get a bit of lore when we learn more about the character Him. Phone Guy mentions that Him was an old animatronic that was scrapped because people were quote-unquote terrified of him. He makes a comment about so many children screaming. This quote is also mentioned in a teaser image, with the full quote being so many children screaming, so many children crying. And honestly, I don't blame those kids for being scared of him, because if I saw that thing, I would probably be screaming and crying. Night 3's phone call is more interesting as Phone Guy mentions that someone snuck into the backstage and planted something in the animatronics. He says that both Fredbear and Spring Bonnie don't work, but apparently they have spare animatronics from another location, which happens to be Freddy and his gang. And from Night 3 and onwards, Freddy Fazbear and the rest of his crew will replace Fredbear and Spring Bonnie. Night 4's phone call is extremely short with audio cutting in and out. Despite this, we're able to make out what Phone Guy is saying. He says that they still haven't figured out a way to fix Fredbear and Spring Bonnie, and he also mentions that the spares have gone missing. Before he can say anything else, the call abruptly ends. The final phone call plays during Night 5 and is the most interesting one. Phone Guy mentions that this is his last call as they found something sickening in one of the rooms, and advises us not to look in cam 9 or else it will come out. He says that if we accidentally look in this camera we should play dead as it's the only way we'll survive it. And upon looking on the newly unlocked cam 9, we can see what appears to be a Spring Bonnie suit slumped on the floor with what is most likely William Afton's dead body inside. However, the phone calls aren't the only thing that we have to go off of for the story. After each night we get a cutscene, which I'll briefly talk about. Night 1's phone call shows us playing as Fredbear as we move through the various rooms. However, after reaching what looks like to be the parts and service room, the cutscene ends and we are taken to the next night. Night 2's cutscene is very similar, except it appears that we are controlling Spring Bonnie, and we make our way to parts and service before the cutscene ends. Night 3's cutscene is different, as in this one it's from the point of view of a camera in parts and service. After a few seconds the camera glitches out and we see a golden suit appear, and after another few seconds the camera glitches out again and we see another golden suit appear. The camera glitches for a third time and we see what appears to be a pool of blood. However, it's pretty hard to tell exactly what it is. Night 4's cutscene is similar to Night 3's cutscene, as it's still from the point of view of the camera in parts and service, but we actually get a clue as to why the animatronics aren't working. We are first shown two golden suits, and after a few seconds we see a black humanoid figure remove the heads from one of the suits. And after a few seconds, the camera glitches out and we see the same black figure insert what appears to be a dead body in one of the suits. However, the cutscene ends and we are taken to Night 5. The final cutscene that plays after Night 5 is pretty interesting. We start once again from the perspective of a camera in parts and service. We are shown the dead body from the last cutscene before the camera glitches out and shows a black figure from earlier, removing the heads from the other animatronics. We then see the black figure insert another dead body in the other suit before the camera glitches again, and we see the black figure looking directly at us. The cutscene then ends, and that's pretty much it for the story. As for what it means, I'll give my thoughts on what I think the story is. Based off of the cutscenes in-game and some of the teaser images, it's obvious that Purple Guy / William Afton exists in this game's universe. It also seems like him could have been a victim of William Afton based off of a teaser image. And it also seems like he wants to get revenge on William Afton. It's also possible that whoever we're playing as is in some way related to William Afton, based off of another teaser image that asks, "Why didn't you stop him?" Regardless, just like the original FNaF series, William Afton ends up getting spring-locked, and while that may be the end of the story for Five Nights to Remember, the series is still far from over. As mentioned earlier, there's another game that is tied to this game, and it's called One Night to Remember. One Night to Remember is the second entry in the Five Nights to Remember series. It was originally published at Game Jolt on June 12, 2015 as an early access game. I'm going to keep this section brief as, to be honest, I was barely able to find any information on this game, but the game itself did receive some attention thanks to YouTubers like Darko who played it. However, just like Five Nights to Remember, this game is pretty obscured and isn't really as widely remembered. Gameplay for One Night to Remember is similar to Five Nights to Remember, but there are some differences. The most obvious one being is that the game takes place over one night, and instead of surviving from 12 AM to 6 AM, you have to survive from 12 AM to 8 AM. The office is about the same size as the one from Five Nights to Remember, and when it comes to tools that you can use to protect yourself, it's pretty much the same as Five Nights to Remember. You have a camera system to watch the animatronics, and within those cameras you have something called the tracker, which briefly shows the locations of the animatronics for a few seconds. You also have a light switch you can turn on in the hallway in front of you, and just like Five Nights to Remember, you have a red switch you can press that will send the animatronics back a bit. Moving on to the characters and how they work, first up we have Fredbear and Spring Bonnie. Both of them work the same way as they do in Five Nights to Remember. They will gradually make your way to you in the office, and you can use the red switch in your office to send them back a few rooms. That's one major difference when it comes to the red switch in this game. In Five Nights to Remember, the switch would simply send Fredbear and Spring Bonnie back to the show stage no matter where they were. However, in this game, the red switch will send Fredbear and Spring Bonnie back a few rooms instead of automatically sending them back to the show stage, preventing the switch from becoming overpowered and acting like a reset button. Next we have Stan the Spider. Stan starts in cam 8, but he doesn't appear on any of the other cameras. Instead, you have to listen out for his light footsteps when he moves, and when he's in the office, he'll laugh, and you'll have to pull up your monitor to make him go away. Phone Guy also mentions a character named Ben the Beaver, and says we have to close our eyes to make him go away. But honestly, I literally could not find any pictures or gameplay of him, so I actually have no idea if he's in the game or not. Plushtrap is also in this game, and in order to make him go away, we have to pull up the camera. Phone Guy also mentions that there are spare suits of Fredbear and Spring Bonnie, which can be slowed down by looking at the cameras once they activate. Around the 6 AM mark, a shadow vision of Fredbear becomes active and moves insanely fast throughout the restaurant, and the only way to stop him is by watching him on the cams. As far as the story for this game, there really isn't that much to look into. We play as a character named Alex, and according to the Phone Guy, during the previous week when we weren't there, an incident occurred which resulted in the animatronics no longer acting right. While it's never said what happened, it's my guess that Phone Guy is referring to the Bite of 87, based off the description on the Game Jolt page, which states that an event occurred at a birthday party, and we know that the Bite of 87 also occurred at a birthday party. However, we may never know what the story is behind this game, since the developer ended up cancelling the project and stopped updating the game altogether, and that was seemingly the end of the Five Nights to Remember series. However, on March 24th, 2024, the remastered version of Five Nights to Remember was released on Game Jolt. The remastered version was developed by a team called Radiance Team, who made the game Five Nights at Chuck E. Cheese Rebooted, a remastered version of the original Five Nights at Chuck E. Cheese game, and are responsible for the fan game Five Nights at Treasure Island. The remastered version of Five Nights to Remember features a brand new main menu, updated graphics, new original soundtrack, and even a custom night, and an extras menu where you can view the characters in full detail. Jesus Christ. Honestly, I could probably make an entire video on the remastered version because there's so much to cover, so I'll probably end up making one in the future. Regardless, the game has been receiving positive attention and has been played by many YouTubers, and the series has finally gotten the recognition it deserves. And that's pretty much it for Five Nights to Remember. Like I said earlier, I'll probably make a video on the remastered version of the game, since there is a lot of things to cover like new game mechanics, new game characters, and of course, the story. So let me know if you guys would like to see that video. Until then, I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and if I missed anything, which I probably did, please let me know in the comments. And with that, I hope I see you guys in the next video. Bye bye.